Hello, everybody, and welcome. This is myself, Kiva Murphy, and herself, Rebecca Tanwin.
Hello.
Welcome to week 4 of our podcast. Today, we are going to be talking all about the importance of context. The who, the what, and the
where. Ooh, I loved it when you went, where?
Yeah. Miss Rebecca Tanwin.
Yes.
Looking beautiful sitting over there. Yeah, look at you. Oh, she's making faces. Again, a visual gag's not going to work.
No, I know.
But I enjoyed it. So what do you think about the importance? What does context mean to you?
So for me, I think context, when I was thinking about this, I think context for me is communicating understanding and meaning, because it's really important for communicating or transferring meaning from the speaker to the receiver. Because without context, misunderstandings are rife. It's really difficult to understand something outside of context, in like a vacuum of nothing, without anything to kind of ground it on or base it on. And I think for me, that's what context is. It helps you understand the message that's being given to you in communication. We're talking about communication here.
Yeah, there are lots of different contexts for sure, but in this specific idea.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, there is context very much when you're writing a book or writing something. Context is vitally important for communicating between yourself as the author and then the reader. And it's so you can communicate what you're thinking and feeling and base it in a reality that kind of exists. And the same thing happens when you send emails, send text messages.
That's what I was literally just thinking, that when you have it out of a vacuum, you're like, what do they mean by that WhatsApp? Mm-hmm. And then also thinking about when you speak to someone on text, email, whatever, something that's written medium, and it's not their first language. I don't know if you've found this with people who are coming from Spanish and then speaking English. They are very direct, because in Spanish we work much more in the imperative. So they're like, let's do that, or let's go, give me this, go to sleep, go whatever it is. And it's very direct, and it's like, oh, I need to understand that the context of where that person is coming from is a different language, and dame, dígame, cóbrame is fine here.
Yeah.
And it's just, in English, it's just not.
Yeah, it would be considered rude.
Very rude.
To use the imperative in that way in English is like, oh, excuse me.
Yeah, but maybe that's our problem in English, that we can't handle that directness. That level of directness is, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's a very good point. That is a great example of context, of that. Understanding that someone isn't being rude, because you've got two different contexts coming in here. You've got the Spanish and you've got the British, from my example. And you both have different contexts, different social contexts, different ways of speaking, different ways of where you use your language. So, yeah, of course, you can give a bit of give and take with that. And it gives you a sympathy and understanding and a compassion towards the person, that they're not being rude, they're coming from their context, from their kind of background. And that is very helpful to understand and not get too offended.
I know, but it's so specific. I mean, I asked someone a question the other day on WhatsApp, and they responded, okay, full stop. And my cold. I mean, it's absolutely not cold.
No, it's not.
Whereas then the next day someone else wrote to me, because I was like, oh, that was a bit harsh. And then the next day someone wrote to me, and I asked a question, and they just responded, K, just one letter, no full stop. No, and I thought that was fine.
What?
For me, the K was much more colloquial and much more like, oh yeah, cool. Oh yeah, cool. See you there. Whereas okay, full stop felt very,
Do you not buy into the K thing then? There's the sarcastic K in a...
Oh no.
It's like K. Like it's like for me, if someone writes K, I'm like, do you want to go? Are we going? Do you want to fight?
Oh, no, K for me felt much more like, do you mind doing this thing? And there's like, okay. Oh, I didn't have any sarcasm. Oh, no. Now I don't know what level to take from it.
But this is the thing. This is all where context and inference and reading into kind of stuff. Because we can't read tone here. We can't see someone's face.
This is
we don't. And also sometimes you don't know the people very well who are sending you these things. So, for example, I often write okie dokie in my messages.
You do.
And that is obviously incredibly soft. So, and here's another context thing, temporal context. I always write okie dokie. So if I suddenly write K, you might be like, oh, from the context that
Yeah,
I know.
I infer from that
Yeah.
that this is a different.
And you might be 100% right.
Oh, but that's so passive aggressive.
I know, isn't it terrible? But it is a context shift. So a much nicer version of this is, say, like, we chat fairly regularly. When we meet for a coffee, there's a certain vibe, there's a certain energy. If suddenly you stopped sharing things with me, or you became a bit more closed or something like that, then, from what I know, historical and temporal context from you, as in like Kiva's normally really chatty and open and generally quite,
TMIing.
yeah, TMIing.
Share everything that's in my brain. It just all comes out of my mouth.
And if suddenly you just shut off, my little context thing will go, that's different. Because it's not the context I'm used to. It's not the background. It's not the behaviour I'm used to from Kiva. So something might be up. And so it's a signal for that as well. So it's really useful in like picking up if somebody is, had a bad day. Or is suddenly...
Or if they're getting a bit short with you, going, okay, what might this have been? Maybe I did, piss them off 2 weeks ago, and then we haven't actually had a time to talk that out.
Exactly. So it's quite a useful thing to notice.
I think but there's a balance, because then often with things like we're saying about WhatsApp or whatever, I was thinking about emails as well. And that sometimes it's like you sign off an email with yours sincerely or best or regards or whatever. And you can read so much into that. Whereas when I first moved to Spain, I remember my first actual job in Spain, and the emails were like, hola querida, no sé qué, no sé cuántos. It was like so lovey-dovey and so abrazos y amor y te mando todo el amor. And I was like, what? This is a professional email. And for me, that context completely blew my brain. I'd come straight from London, where everything is much more formal and there's a plan of how things are done. It's like we start off with sincerely, and we get more friends, it gets regards, and then we get to
many thanks, best,
all of
love,
that.
lots of love.
So much of it.
But it takes a long time.
But it takes a long time to get to lots of love. So then with this, like a business thing, and it was starting off with like hugs and kisses, I was like, I didn't know, was it sarcastic? I was like, I'm new. I thought it was so over the top that I actually went, oh, maybe they don't want me.
So there's a few types of context that are useful to us in communication mainly. So it's like reading the situation. So one is temporal or historical context. So someone behaves in a particular way, and you go, oh, that's odd. It feels strange. So it's like, a family sit down for dinner and they're all sharing and they're all kind of like chatting away quite naturally. And they do that maybe every single night. And then one time, one of their kids comes in and is quiet. Something's changed. So maybe a bad day at school, or there's something up, or the context is shifting somehow. So that's one way, one kind of useful thing. Another one is social context.
Right.
Quite an important one. So kind of what your relationship is to that person. You know that context and you adjust your behaviour accordingly. So I will talk to you differently to how I talk to my boss, or how I talk to a client, or how I talk to my mum. So it's all that context feeds into how I slightly alter. Yeah.
What you talk about and the way that you talk about it.
Exactly that. And then another one was cultural context, which is hugely important and massively sensitive and massively that's a massive one, because it's people's backgrounds. It's like where they come from, how they grew up,
what's normal for them, or what's acceptable for them in every way.
And that pulls in beliefs and all kinds of very deep-rooted, important things that really make somebody who they are. So that is a big, big one. And the other one is physical context. So talking about scenes, there's a big difference between watching a scene with maybe like a boyfriend and girlfriend breaking up at a rock concert to a boyfriend and girlfriend breaking up in the cinema. There's a different physical attribute there. People could be, for example, like in the rock concert one, in the gig one, they might not be able to be heard. They might be misunderstood. The volume of which you're speaking will be completely different. If you spoke with the same volume in the cinema and did the same thing, it's the wrong context. It's the wrong physical context. So you adjust all your communication style to fit those places. Another good example is, again, like if you're in a busy shopping centre and you're like chatting away to your friends and all that kind of stuff, and you're all sitting around like having maybe a coffee, and it's all quite loud, it's all quite big and dynamic because your physical context is loud. Your physical context is big, dynamic, maybe daytime. That group of friends sitting around a fire at night, you know, having like a nice little copita or something, that's obviously much softer, more gentle, all that kind of stuff. So again, it all affects how we communicate depending on those different types of context. And you can read stuff into it and read stuff into situations as well and adjust accordingly.
Yeah. Oh, so good. Well remembered.
I know.
Good. Well done. No, I think it's fascinating. And I think from a personal point of view, I think sometimes I'm not very good at reading the context. Because, I don't know if it's because I've done improv for so long or because I'm just not very good at holding things. So when I have something that I'd like to tell someone, whether it might be a question, it might be something a little bit more pertinent or a little bit more specific, it might be a boss, it might be a partner, it might be a friend, I sometimes forget to judge the context and I'll just spit it out there. And I go, wait a second. They've had a really long day, or maybe this is not the right moment, or maybe they are quiet, but let's just not go there right now and let's wait till tomorrow, and then have it in a calm place. Ask that question in a place that is the right context for that context.
Yeah.
And sometimes I get that right, but sometimes I also realize that I've done the wrong one, and I've shared something or asked something in the wrong moment and gone, oh, that was not the right moment.
But I think that's quite normal. I think reading context is difficult. And also it's about you yourself, I mean, are very open. You're very open with kind of like, if you've got a question to ask, you're like, I'm going to ask it.
Yeah.
Because there's a dynamism to that. There's an energy to that. And there's a bravery to that as well. But I know what you mean. Like sometimes it might not be the opportune moment to ask that person.
Yes. But I get the thought in my head, and I notice those things that you're saying about the historical context. Like, oh, normally they're like this and now they're not. And straight away I ask the question. I've had the thought and I ask the question, and it's like, okay, wait.
But that can actually be sometimes a good thing. Because
Yeah.
with the historical context example of someone's behaviour changing, sometimes it is nice to be like, are you okay?
Yeah.
Because you've noticed a context change. And
it does feel like you're seen, and it does feel like, oh, someone has noticed that I've gotten really quiet. So there can be a nice thing there.
Yeah.
But I think it's hard sometimes to get that right balance.
I completely agree. And it also comes with quite a knowledge of the person, because everyone's reaction is very different. Unless you know somebody extremely well, it can be quite hard to gauge their emotions and their feelings, because everyone reacts in such a different way to different situations. For example, I operate at what I call quite a high positivity level, so quite a high energy level. So it takes quite a lot for people have to know me quite well to notice when I'm actually feeling a bit down, because my down is kind of most people's normal or like positive, I guess. But for me, it's like, you have, that's the thing. It's about getting to know a certain person's kind of spectrum, I guess, of where they sit within that kind of thing. And that is about knowing their context and knowing how they their historical behaviour,
what their MO is, I suppose.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That's
really good.
Cool. That is really cool.
But I have a question in terms of context. So I heard recently, now I have not researched this, but I heard that they are re-editing the James Bond books to try and remove some of the misogyny, to try and remove some of the things that are maybe not so great in this current cultural climate and context. What do you think about that? Do you think books should be, could be, would be, whatever, rewritten, edited for like a modern audience, or should they just live that they were written in the 1950s and they stay that way?
I think when it comes to literature and culture, I think that's done like a book, I think they should just stay as they are. And we understand from historical context, they were written at a time when, unfortunately, those things were quite normal. I mean, they should never have been. But
racism, whatever it might be.
Yeah, and they are disturbing to read sometimes and quite upsetting to read. But they are historical moment in time where that context was that context. And we're coming now from our background, our historical context, where those things are not acceptable. So there's a big difference between a book that sits on its own as like a snapshot of time and a person. I don't hold the same thing for people. If
someone says something now that's untoward or not acceptable,
even if they're of the older generation, I might feel a little bit more forgiving, because I understand that their historical context is a bit different, but they're a living, breathing, moving thing that can move and change with the current context. So I think if you're able to adapt as a person, I think that's great. And I don't think we should be like, well, free pass, carte blanche for anyone who was born before a certain period. I think that's not fair. I think people can change and adapt. But when it comes to literature, I think
it's a standalone.
Yeah, it's a little snapshot of history. And yeah, it is uncomfortable. And probably the motivation behind editing the James Bond books, for example, is that they just want to make more money.
Well, a new audience is coming in. So what I was speaking about this with some friends the other day, and we were saying that what might be good is to leave it as is, leave it as was written. I think the 50s. I'm not totally sure.
I think it was maybe 40s.
Maybe even Also written by someone called Broccoli, which I just love. I love that it's the Broccoli family.
Well, the Broccoli family is still they're producers of the
films
now.
No, it's
Barbara
amazing.
Broccoli,
so good. I think that we were speaking about that maybe it would be good to put a warning. Yeah. Put a warning on the first page. Go, this book was written in 19 blah. Be aware that was the context it was written in. So, kind of read on if you dare, but read on knowing that is the context.
Yeah.
I think everyone should be allowed to make their own choice. And I think you shouldn't be, if you listen to Michael Jackson, great. You've made your decision. You can listen to him if you want to. Likewise, if you don't want to and you want to ban him or cancel culture, as it's said now, and you want to cancel him, I think that's also fine. But I think with a lot of things, people try and push their point of view. They're like, you shouldn't do this. Whether, you shouldn't eat meat because X. You should eat meat because X. And it's like, okay, I can give you my arguments. I can give you my context, my personal thoughts, my opinions, what I'm doing. I can give you why I've decided to not eat meat, to listen to this or to watch this. And that's it. And then I allow you, instead of trying to squash it on top of you or convince you, which often becomes then quite a manipulation of like, you are wrong because of this, or I'm going to trash your entire point of view because mine is right.
Because if you're forcing your context onto someone else and like what you believe and your cultural or social context, and you're forcing that onto somebody, that doesn't create good communication.
Yeah, because you don't know what someone is also coming from.
Yeah.
So in terms of things triggering each other, it happened in a scene the other day. Someone was doing a scene on stage and someone in the audience, like in the class, just went, oh, that's really triggering for me. And it was about maths. It wasn't about something, very extreme, but it was about something about maths. And the person was just like, maths was such a sore point for me that in school they had a real trouble with maths. And so that this scene about mathematics got so stressful for that person that it brought up all of their kind of childhood trauma about maths and about being so upset about it. So it's not like saying, going back to the idea of the book of going, okay, here's a bit of a warning, or like, take this with a pinch of salt, the context was different. You never know what's going to trigger someone. You never know what context that person is coming from. And we think, if it's something, an abuse or something that very heavy that happened in that person's past, but it could be maths problems.
Yeah. For a second, I thought you said mat problems.
Oh.
Like they had a thing with mats. And I was like, what, like gym mats? And I was like, are yoga mats? I was like, oh. And I was like, oh, no, it's maths.
Maths.
No. I'm sure it sounds absolutely fine. It's just my brain went straight
to yoga mats.
Like, I was like, and then I went to those big, like, the big crash mats you used to have in school. Oh my God. Good. The best of all the mats.
They're blue? They were blue.
Yeah, they were blue.
They're always blue.
And yeah, oh my God. And I was like, how could you hate those mats? And I was like, maybe they had some trauma. Maybe a mat fell on them. I was but they're just joy to me in my head, those big blue mats. If I saw one now, I'd probably run straight across.
You have to just go
jump on it immediately. Just like,
yeah.
Oh my God, so much fun.
Yeah.
So much fun. But you're absolutely right. You can't know everybody's trigger. I think what context does, and understanding and reading context, is it helps you. It's a tool, again, to help you. You can read changes. You can think, oh, okay, maybe like there might be, for example, like if you're a guy and you're talking to a woman, then, there is some context there. Like the way women experience the world is different to the way men experience the world.
Yeah.
And then, of course, then you have all the intersections as well of like all different people. So, that everyone will experience the world in a different way. Everybody. I find that actually really fascinating.
It really is fascinating, isn't it?
Like when you read a book and when I read a book, like we'll see different images in our heads.
I know.
And that's based on our context.
I know.
It's so cool.
And how we see the world and we're only seeing things through our brain and our point of view. We can try with context to have empathy and get into someone else's shoes, but you're only kind of putting on the shoes. You're not wearing them.
Exactly.
Like, oh, do you know a man walk a mile on his shoes?
Shall I ask you a question?
Go for it.
So, Kiva, this podcast is going to talk a little bit about the Improv platform. So, what is the Improv platform?
So the Improv platform is the idea about having a base, like a good solid structure to base your scenes on. This works if you're writing a book, if you're writing a song, if you're creating an improv scene, whatever it might be. Kind of in life, it's going to be handy to have that context and that foundation. And it's basically in improv, it's the who, the what, and the where. Yeah. You can kind of add the how in there a little. Oh, you're surprised by that one.
The how surprised
me. I know. So the who, if we're doing a two-person scene, the two of us, who are we? Who am I? So I'm your mother and you're my daughter, for example. But what is that relationship? Who are we? Who am I as my character? Who are you as your character? And who are we to each other?
And that's social context.
That's social context. Bringing it back to the pod. Nice.
Yeah.
So the who are we and all the things that we come. Okay, so I'm your mother. That, our relationship is this. Our status is this. The way we speak to each other is this. Whatever. All 1,000 decisions you can make within that who. The next one is the what. And the what is obviously, what is this story about? So the story is about you want to go to the cinema and you want to have a later curfew. So our scene is about you want to go out. So that's what your context is. I want to go to the cinema out. And my context is I want my daughter to be safe and I don't want her to go out. Doesn't mean we have to fall into conflict, but that is what the what of the story is about. Yeah. And then the where is, okay, where is the scene taking place? Like you said earlier about physical context. So if we're in our kitchen and it's 8 a.m. when we're having breakfast. So yes, the who, the what, and the where when we're learning improv is this idea of having a good platform, a good foundation to then base the scene on. And the how that I was mentioning is more of the emotional context. So how does this daughter come and ask to go to the cinema? How is she doing it? What's the emotion? Where is she even physically? Is she sitting? Are you standing right beside me going, Mom, can I go to the cinema? Or are you angry? Are you happy? Are you doing it whilst giving me a foot massage? So the how of everything also is the kind of like the second level of creating the scene and creating more kind of interesting context into the scene.
Nice. And having a strong platform is very important. I mean, I'm talking mainly from an audience point of view. It's if I don't know who someone is or I don't know where we are, I get very lost very quickly. Yeah. And it is that thing of shouting out, who are you? Because we just don't know. And there is a thing actually in TV and film script writing is that you have to name your character by another character quite quickly. Because, of course, in your script, you can see this character is Kiva and this character is Rebecca because we're reading it. But on screen, unless I go, oh, hey, Kiva, no one knows who you are.
Yeah.
And it's a sign of quite bad filmmaking if you're like, who is this person? But you can also do it on purpose to create like mystery.
Well, like with Nil and I.
Yes.
You've seen with Nil and I? He doesn't have a name.
Yeah.
He's just I.
But they've done it on
But
purpose.
it was on purpose.
Yeah.
And he was the narrator and it's on purpose and it's a choice. And then great.
Yeah, exactly.
And we both know that story for that. I mean, it's a great movie as well. If you haven't seen With Nil and I.
Oh my God.
Oh God, it's so good. Of course, he's the fucking farmer. Oh, it's so good.
I haven't seen it for so long.
Oh yeah.
But it is that thing of like, as an audience member, as someone watching, you need it. It holds you very securely. Once you know, we're here. We're at this moment. We're here. This is our relationship. Okay, let's go. I'm in.
Yeah.
I'm buying that. Let's go for it.
Exactly.
And then you want to see how it develops. And then, of course, I think when it comes to
Then
improv,
go for it.
wherever you want.
Go, 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 go. But if you don't have that solid platform, then I'm thinking one thing. I'm like, okay, this is, she's my daughter. She wants to go to the cinema, to use the same example. But then you maybe say a line and you're like, oh yeah, our boss is terrible. And then my brain is going to explode because
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I thought you were my daughter. I was 100% sure you were my daughter, but nothing was named and nothing was clarified. So now you've mentioned a boss, and so now we're colleagues. And now I'm like, oh my God, why are we going to the cinema? Maybe we make films. Oh my God, maybe I'm a director. Blah, 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 blah. Panic.
Yeah.
I mean, not necessarily panic, and you can kind of roll with the punches, but it's good at the start when you're learning improv to get that basis, get that foundation. And then we use the same image an awful lot, which I'm sure you've heard of, the idea of building a brick. So we got that good foundation, the who, the what, and the where. And then everything that you add on to that is like, okay, I'm adding a brick. And I step back, and now I let you add another detail. And you add the thing of like, oh, I want to go to the cinema because, I'm dating this boy. Oh, and now I get to react to that.
Yeah.
As this mom character, and go, oh, are you dating Johnny? He seems really nice. I really like his family.
And you go, no, I'm dating David.
Oh,
and then you're like,
oh, okay. So we
I'm
get
dating
more.
David and I'm going on his motorbike. All these sort of things. Your
Yeah.
mums are like, no. And then you start to, you build it together. You add those little juicy details.
Yeah.
I know I said no, which obviously is like, but that's not a card. I said no and then I added.
That's fine. That's fine.
So-
Basically, the character can say no. So you, as this young daughter who wants to go to the cinema, you can say no. It's just not, you don't want the improviser to say no.
Yes.
So as the character, you can ask questions. You can say no. That's totally fine.
Yeah.
But it's not Rebecca just being like, oh, no, shut down.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't say, no, I don't have a boyfriend. I said, yes, I have a boyfriend, but no, you got it wrong. It's this boyfriend.
Yeah.
And there you go. That's the yes and, but with saying no.
Yes. Yeah. Turning a no into a yes as well. And that's fine.
Exactly.
But so having a platform kind of sets you up. And then you're like, okay, now I have an idea of where we can maybe go. We're starting from the same grounded place.
If you're not grounded in a truth, you're not grounded in a reality, and it can be quite a bizarre reality. Like it could be a fantasy reality. It can be anything you want.
Bring it.
You can be wherever you want. It doesn't have to be a domestic reality. But as long as everyone's playing from the same universe initially, then you can take it wherever you want, and it makes it really fun. It makes it enjoyable to watch.
Yeah.
You're like,
and
ooh.
What's going to happen next?
Yeah, exactly that.
In improv, we talk about if this is true, what else is true. So if this is a universe where everyone stands on one leg and eats custard every day, okay, if that's true and someone is set, classic, no?
Perfect.
Wasn't the first example in your brain? Well, it was in mine. But if this is true, what else is true? Okay, so we eat custard. Does that mean, what is it? Why do we eat custard? What's the justification? What's the meaning of everyone walking on one leg? And then you're like, okay, if that's true, then what else? And then we can dig and find and explore all that cool stuff together.
I do really enjoy that one. If this is true, what else is true?
It's a huge one.
So Kiva, do you have an exercise or something we can do to practice kind of building this platform, setting this platform up?
Sure. There are tons and tons of exercises out there, but there is a wonderful improviser called Imbal Laurie, shout out to her, who made an exercise called You Are, You Are. We're going to say out loud our who we are. So I'm going to endow you, which means I'm going to give you your character. So I'm going to say you are a passport control officer. I've endowed you with that character. I can give you a name if I want as well. Yeah, your name's John.
Okay.
So now you're going to say to me, you are, and you give me a character.
You are a dairy farmer and your name is Muriel.
Great. What I should have. Let's do it again.
What am I supposed? Is it meant to be linked to?
Yeah.
Oh.
We can have a dairy farmer and that's fine. It will be a scene.
Muriel's on holiday.
Sure. Okay, let's keep it. I'm Muriel. I'm a dairy farmer. That's fine.
Well,
No. It's totally fine. It's totally fine. But yeah, if people out there are doing the exercise, it's good if there is a relationship. Yeah. So it makes it easier to build the scene when you're learning. But I can do it. Yeah. No. Perfect.
Okay.
Yeah. Then it's back to me again, and I'm going to give us the location, the where. Yeah. So we are at a passport control in an airport. Yeah. And then you're going to give the final one, which is the what, and you're going to say what this scene is about. What is the juicy bit of this scene?
The what is Muriel is smuggling milk.
Fantastic. And then we would start the scene.
Okay.
Yeah? Okay, you want to do it?
Are we going to do it?
Sure. I can see in your face you want to.
Oh, God. Here we go. Next, please.
Oh, yes. Hello.
Passport.
Oh, yes, of course. Yes, my passport. This is, here you go. There you go. It's absolutely me.
Picture looks a bit different.
Oh, well, yes, that was, I've been working on the farm, so I've got an extra load of freckles. I've been very busy working on the farm, and it's definitely me. It's, yes.
Okay. So you're, what kind of farmer are you?
Dairy, cow farm. Just meat. Yes, just meat.
Just meat. Just meat. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Right.
Yes, absolutely.
And what is the purpose of your trip today?
I want to try all the good hipster coffees.
Hipster coffees. You look like you're under a bit of strain there, Muriel.
No, I've just got very heavy baggage. I'm very excited to try the coffee in Berlin.
In Berlin, yeah.
Yes.
We have very good coffee here in Berlin. Obviously, I originally came from London, but I now live in Berlin. And that's absolutely fine. I'm loving Berlin. It's great hipster coffee, actually. So can I just ask you one final question?
Yes, of course. Yes, absolutely.
So you
move. Sorry.
That noise?
It was just it's just a cow joke. It's a cow joke.
Now that backpack does look very heavy, Muriel, and it looks like it's moving as well. Your backpack seems to be moving.
Oh no! Move! No!
I can see something sticking out of it. It looks like a little ear, or
it's a toy that I'm bringing for my niece, nephew. It's my family.
No, Muriel, I'm afraid you're going to have to open that bag for me.
Oh no! Please, no! Absolutely, I. Okay, fine. Okay.
Unless.
It's a cow. Scene.
End scene. That was bonkers. I think it's really cool. I really enjoyed that. It's very fun. And also, I do like the thing of you endow someone else with their context.
Yeah.
Like you endow someone else with the who and then the what and then the where.
Yeah.
I quite enjoy that because sometimes I like to receive suggestions, I think, rather than sometimes generating for me as a beginner improviser is actually harder. But as soon as someone gives me a suggestion, I'm like, ooh, that's nice. And then my brain goes, and off it goes.
For sure.
But I like that initial piece of information. I think that's really fun. The who, the what, or
the where.
The where.
Yeah.
Indeed.
And then the how, we get to discover all the how together.
Oh, yeah, the how. The how is kind of like the bit. The how feels to me like as the scene progresses, you kind of feel the how.
Yeah, and it goes and it shifts and it changes. And we see also how the people are changed, how the location changes, how the what, like the how is how everything. How. Knowing
someone's context, knowing a bit more about them, particularly if you're approaching a client. Like if you're a freelancer, do a bit of research on who your
corporate espionage.
Exactly. On who that person is. And then you can tailor your messages and your emails so they're like, ooh,
this feels really appropriate.
Yeah.
And this feels like that person is talking to me.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
You know all those emails you get like, hi, I came across your website. Do you want a new? Like, does that ever work? Does it ever work? What are they wasting their time? I'm sure it's just a number of statistics. If they send out 10,000 emails, one person will come back and either be scammed or not be scammed or whatever it might be. But just like, really? Like, do you ever think that's going to work?
It's quick. You don't have to do much work or research into it. But if you've got a dream client you want to work with and you've got like these core base of clients and you really want to get them, you have to research into them. You have to find out what is their context, what makes them tick.
Where are they coming from?
Yeah, exactly. And then you can tailor it to that and you'll get a much better response.
They know who I am. They know where I am.
Yeah.
Because where I am doesn't even have to be a physical location, but it's like, where am I? Oh, I'm in the process of hiring, or I'm in the process of growing my company, my business, whatever. So with the where, the context is, okay, where is this person at right now?
Exactly. Thank you so much for listening. That is the end of Let's See It for this episode, all about context and the Improv platform. Hope you enjoyed listening. We love recording these for you, so please like, follow, subscribe, do all that stuff. And we will see you all in 2 weeks' time. Bye, everyone.
Bye.